Shalom, my name is Rudy Rockman and I'm here at the 2019 AIPAC Policy Conference. And although most people come to AIPAC to listen to the interesting conversations inside, I'm here also to try and speak to the protesters outside to see what they think. Now we know there are many different types of groups, let's see what they have to say.
First of all, I hope you guys all know, fuck Hezbollah, screw Hamas, screw Saudi Arabia, screw Iran. Most Palestinians are actually like me.
However, people like you need to be the ones that replace that power because you truly represent the Palestinians.
She's claiming that in Israel said we go by the fact that we want to kill Palestinians. That in the IDF, that's what they teach.
What I said was not word for word like that.
Let her speak.
Essentially, the IDF is a military force.
You guys are electing a government that is
to protect the Israelis, correct? Protect them from what? Terror attacks, correct?
Protect them from any sort of insecurity.
Any sort of insecurity, everything. So you were on ground in Israel, right? How do you treat Palestinian children?
Same way I treat any other child.
Where did you work?
I was in paratroopers. It was League Combat.
Have you ever raided Palestinian homes? What do you say about the raiding of Palestinian homes?
I say that there's a context there. If there's a particular individual, Palestinian, not defining all the people, that goes and kills an individual and goes and hides in one of those homes, you can understand how a security force has to go and try and find that person.
But a lot of the times, those houses end up being wrongly targeted.
Then, again, consequences of a war. But it's
so it's just like collateral damage?
No, it's not. It should be condemned. But we have to understand that there's a context of a conflict happening, right? And that conflict should end. And I'm telling you that as an Israeli, and I think you agree with that as a Palestinian. But we cannot just find the instances of suffering and take the whole context out of it. And then just like say, oh, well, this is happening. It is happening and it has to stop. But there's a reason it's happening.
You have one extremist group that is not willing to let go of power because they thrive off of that power and have costed the lives of hundreds of thousands of innocent Gazans. And you have another group that says that, hey, I'm democratic, but I'm still willing to bomb the living hell out of innocent Gazans.
Well, I condemn any murder of Palestinians.
And I do too.
Right?
And for Israel as well.
However, to the context of that bombing, I'm not justifying it, but Israel does everything in its power to prevent casualties.
But how?
Right? For example, okay, when they're about to go and bomb, and it's not the entire city, it's a certain area where there were rockets specifically shot from there. And before they do that, they call the phones of everyone in the building, letting them know in Arabic, in 5 minutes, 20 minutes, we're going to come and bomb. The second thing they do is they have leaflets that a drone comes and sends out leaflets written in Arabic. If anyone didn't get a call, at least they see. And the third and final thing that they do, they have something called a knocker bomb, where they come and they have a little explosion that just makes noise to let everyone in the building know to leave. However, Hamas forces individuals to stay there so that when the actual bomb comes in order to destroy weapons that are being shot into Israel, that individuals are dead. So I'll condemn the murder of those people. However, we can't take like a conflict and blame all the consequences of the conflict on one side, right? So it's not because Israel is defending itself that Palestinians are killing. It's because like Hamas is forcing people to be there and shooting rockets out of those buildings because they also are suffering in the area and they have horrible lives, right? And they don't have access to movement and they can't go outside. They can't have importation without being stopped by Israel.
There's the siege on Gaza.
These have to stop. However, how do they stop? Okay, they have to stop by us not seeing each other as the enemy of the other story. And that's not the conversation happening in the power of the Palestinian society. I would agree with you that the vast majority of the people believe this way, but the people aren't in power. And so I think that we can take out Hamas, we can take out the PA, we can take out all these like factions that you disagree with. However, people like you need to be the ones that replace that power because you truly represent the Palestinians.
Where does the blame go? Like where do you, that's the thing. You're right, we shouldn't be sitting around.
Are we focused more on blame or more on change?
You're right, but how do you change?
How do I change? Again,
you have to start at the root, correct?
What's the root?
And the root stems from 1948.
From the creation of Israel?
From the exile of
right, but that happened because of war. It's not that Israel created a country and said the next day, you know what, Palestinians leave. Right? Israel established this country, which I think should have happened differently, but understanding the circumstances of the time, I understand why it was done that way. And then there was a war waged by all the surrounding Arab countries. And in the war, there were people that were displaced and killed.
What was it called before it went to Palestine, correct?
Okay, it was called the British Mandate of Palestine. But Palestinians only chose to collectively really identify themselves with
essentially, but UN recognized as Palestine.
Okay, so Palestinians today only chose in 1964 to adopt the Palestinian flag and to collectively call themselves all as Palestinians. Before that, they were Arabs living in Palestine, right? And the term Palestine itself, when was the land named Palestine? By who? Huh?
The Romans?
The Romans. There weren't Arabs yet at that time. Like there wasn't Islam yet. And why did they do that after taking it from Judea to Palestine? Because the word Palestine is from the word Plishtim, which is like David and Goliath. Goliath was part of this Plishtim people, and when they destroyed Judea, they decided to name the land by one of their former greatest enemies as an insult.
So these inhabitants of that country, right? What do you?
It wasn't a country. It was always a region controlled by an empire.
But it was recognized. I mean, it still is recognized by other countries as a country. Right?
Today as Israel or British Mandate Palestine? It was never a country.
It has never, I mean, in history textbooks, if you look, it's never been called the British Mandate of Palestine. It's literally just called Palestine.
But it's the British Mandate of Palestine. It's a British coin, it's British currency, it's British control, British soldiers.
You could say the same
British
thing
parliamentary.
You could say the exact same thing about Israel.
No, in
Because
Israel
it was granted by the Brits.
No, the British left. It's the United Nations that decided to do the two-state partition plan, which again I disagree with.
But the Brits they did grant, like they literally.
You talking about the Balfour Declaration?
Talking about the British Mandate.
Okay, the British Mandate. They pulled out and left, and they also gave what was British Mandate of Palestine, 3/5 of that being Jordan, right? They gave that to Hashemite Kingdom. So there's all sorts of things being done by the British and France in the Sykes-Picot Agreement and dividing lands by like what is like beneficial to themselves.
Correct, but Palestine is still recognized as a country.
No, never.
I mean, UN-wise, yeah, it is. Palestine is recognized as a country.
Okay, so now you're talking about the West Bank in particular, but we're talking about 48. Before 48, Palestine was never a country. Right? It was just a region controlled by an empire. It was the British. Before the British was the Ottomans. Before the Ottomans was the Byzantines. Before Byzantines was the Romans. What came before that? Judea.
In the context of Judea, can I ask, I mean, you brought up David and Goliath.
Yeah.
In the modern context, which country would be David and which Goliath?
So David in that story was like a boy, but at some point David grows and becomes a very powerful king, but he's still the same person. So the fact that Israel has more powerful today...
David is literally a little boy throwing a rock at an occupying invading force.
Yes, but...
Could you not say that
no,
that
because
analog
the Jews are
is
not an occupying
consistent?
invading force. The Jews are indigenous to the land. Dig in the ground and find me Jewish artifacts, right?
You also find a host of other ethnic groups, some of whom were wiped out.
Like which group?
I mean, does the Torah not detail groups that were there before?
Which groups? Like the Canaanites you're talking about?
Yeah.
Which one don't exist and also had stemmed from Africa.
Okay. I don't know about them specifically.
Okay.
We have always loved our Jewish brothers and sisters. The fight is not against Judaism, and you know that.
Okay.
I know you know that. I know you.
It
Or I
it
want you
depends
guys
who.
to know that.
Depends
and
who.
you
I don't
know
see
that.
all Palestinians as that's their fight against Judaism. I agree with you on that.
Okay.
But there are many individuals, especially I would say leaders, that are using Palestinian struggles as
For
a
their
way
own
to attack
benefit.
Israel.
For a
Right?
simple example,
And they don't care about Palestinians
we've got
dying
the
in
dictator,
Syria.
We've got the dictator in Syria, whose name is
Or
Bashar
the
al-Assad.
dictator in Ramallah.
And he, are you talking about?
Hamas.
Yeah. Okay. And we have dictators all over who have done the exact same thing and has used the Palestinian struggle as a way to make themselves somewhat seem deemable for support from other things. First of all, I hope you guys all know, fuck Hezbollah. Thank you from my side. Okay? Because not only like they have killed innocent Syrians in Syria, right? And that is why I say that. Screw Hamas. Screw Saudi Arabia. Screw Iran. That is like 5 things I've just named right now that I'm sure all of us agree on. And I'm sure you guys did not expect me to agree on those things with you guys. Right?
From where?
Why? Because most Palestinians are actually like me. Most Palestinians actually believe this way.
I think on most things we actually agree.
I'm sure we do. Our Jewish brothers and sisters have lived here forever. But when the illegal settlements happened,
The Dome of the Rock is not a mosque.
That
The
is
mosque is across the Temple Mount.
literally-
They
Do
know
you
it's
believe
not.
Jews have a right to live in
The
Tibet,
Torah
Samaria, West
prayers
Bank?
are
I
given.
believe the Jews have the right to exist and live wherever.
Okay, so if there's a settlement that like takes Palestinians out of their home and builds it, I'll condemn it with you. However, you can agree that if there's no one living there, that Jews should also be allowed to live there. So the idea of a Jewish civilization, aka
Yeah,
settlement
but that's
there,
not the case of what's happened. Like it's bulldozed hundreds of homes, including my family's home in
okay, so
Nablus.
certain homes are bulldozed as as like a policy, which I'm not defending the policy, but a policy as if there's someone who's a terrorist, their homes get bulldozed, right? I'm not saying I agree with that policy, but we have to also give the greater context, right? Because when we like talk about injustice, but we take away the context, it's kind of like using injustice as political ammunition, right? And it's not about who started first. We could point fingers here, we can point fingers there. I personally think like the British made us think that it's one or the other, right? Divided the land that way, and then made us think that like it's either one state or two state, and it's a zero-sum game, right? But what you represent is actually, I agree with you, the vast majority of Palestinians that actually want to find a way to like have a future. I have a question for you. How do you empower your own community to be able to speak about these ideas and then have influence amongst your community? I'd love to know.
Like
I'd love to know how and what's your vision of like drawing that influence?
Where people come together, sit, and talk about how to coexist. Not only just that from our side, but to also organize, to have interfaith together and come together and stand for the same cause, which is human rights for everyone. But the problem with that is when you have people come up to you and say, well, you know what, Hamas is firing rockets, they need to stop, so Israel stops bombing.
Both sides need to stop. Both sides need to stop.
Both sides need to stop, right?
But I'm asking you, how do you see like a future where individuals like yourself, which want to come forward and don't see all Israelis as their enemy, how do people like you become empowered?
When people like you and people like you guys want to listen, that's where it starts.
It does.
You guys giving us attention is giving us power to be heard.
But why do you think everyone here is like of the same like generation, same age? Because we're of a younger generation that actually, when we do come into positions of power, whether it's being a doctor, whether it's being a politician, whether it's being someone in the media, we are going to be a generation that is able to change things. However, conversations have to start happening, because what I see happening in a lot of these protests is always end Israel. End Israel, end Israel.
I feel like if you
Israel.
guys listened closely though, a lot of the things we were saying,
a lot of people were like supporting Hamas, which you
here?
Yes, here. A lot of people were saying like we support Hamas and all the Jews need to be killed and saying some crazy stuff.
See,
that doesn't represent all.
I honestly have not heard a single person say that, because A, you can literally be in prison to life if you say you support Hamas publicly. I mean, like if that's what you heard, then that's crazy, because I've never heard that. They're literally advised, even if they
You don't think there are people here that support Hamas?
I'm hoping not.
But honestly,
I'm personally, I don't associate myself with anyone who
I know that your ideas, you're responsible for your own.
I still don't like even cooperate or work or anything. I actually don't work with anyone. I'm an independent activist who goes to every kind of event, right?
And there's a lot of things that I condemn in the situation there. For example, I don't believe there should be a wall dividing our people. I think a lot of Palestinians have limited access to resources, limited access to opportunity, access to movement. A lot of things that needs to change. However, if we take the suffering of Palestinians and we blame it all on Israel, we're actually not helping trying to change that situation. We need to realize neither population is just going to disappear, and it's not a zero-sum game.
I don't think that the point, that's the problem, is when you guys believe that people want you to disappear.
So many times we hear like end Israel, destroy Israel, which is why I was asking the question, is like people like you are not don't hold like any sort of representation, right? They don't have a voice. They aren't in government. They aren't in like positions of like valued thinkers. They're not on media. I hope you make YouTube channels. I hope you start conversations. I hope one day maybe me and you could sit down and actually have a conversation again of what are those injustices, what are those aspirations, and what does that mean in Israel that we can create that fulfills both of those things. Because that's the conversation we need to have. So if we always see it as if you're pro-Israel, it means you must be anti-Palestinian. If you're pro-Palestinian, you must be anti-Israel. That just is fuel for the conflict.
What are you guys funding for, lobbying?
So I'm not lobbying, okay, and I disagree with a lot of things that AIPAC says. For example, I'll give you an example. The U.S. foreign aid to Israel, I'm completely against. Okay, I'll tell you why I'm completely against it. Because it's not actually money giving to Israel. It's us becoming dependent on U.S. weapons, because it's credit into getting U.S. weapons, meaning every single weapon in Israel is U.S. produced. So the day that the U.S. either is no longer there or turns against Israel, we have no way of becoming dependent on ourselves and being able to defend ourselves. So it allows America to have control. And I don't want to be controlled by any society. I think the people on the ground living in Israel should have a control of their own region. The U.S. can be friends with Israel in terms of we can trade, we can have open borders, we can have travel, we can have visas. But I don't think the U.S. has a right to control anything from that region. I think the people living there should have control. And And that's why I'm particular against the U.S. foreign aid, because it's not just money.
The root problem comes from power, and it comes from confusing religion with politics. The Jewish faith is the closest faith to Islam.
But you know, Judaism, I personally don't consider as a religion, right?
And that's understandable.
And I'll explain to you why I have that position.
That's 100% understandable.
But when we say a Jewish state, we're not talking about a religious state. We're talking about like a country like Tibet, right? Where it's a people, right, that have a culture, have a history, have a connection to their land, have an identity that come back to their land. When we say that we want a Jewish state,
that I might
it's not
change your
like
mind?
a religious state. It's like a state for the Jewish people.
That your
have
brainwashing
a right
will be
to access
undone?
to their
What are you
land,
afraid
and
of?
those that live there as well have a right to full equal citizenship and living in that land. So when we say Jewish state, it's not this is the Jewish religion that has to be imposed on everyone else. It's the same thing as like Tibetans coming back to Tibet and reviving their civilization and realizing during the time that they were displaced from that civilization, other individuals moved in, right, like Chinese people, and saying they have a right to live there, but they're living now in Tibet.
So you believe that it has nothing to do with religion?
No, I don't think Judaism is a religion. I think there are religious aspects within Judaism. We actually translate like religion, for example. It's the belief system in a God, deity, book, or prophet. So it's an ideology that just crosses over borders and over peoples. Whereas
I'm so sorry. What would you consider
Judaism?
like what would you consider the faith of the Jewish people?
No, I would say that Judaism is a portable suitcase of an identity of a people from Judea, that when they were displaced from that land, they passed down that identity, that portable suitcase with their culture, their relationship with a higher power, their value system, their language, passed it down generation to generation with the idea of one day coming back home.
If you're talking about semantics, most people understand Judaism as being
Right, but if we actually break down religions and break down Judaism, it's actually not the same at all. Like for example, the example I gave you earlier, Native Americans are a collective of people, of nations, right? Right, Native Americans. They're a collective of peoples, right? They're not one nation, but they have many nations within them, right?
Like they wouldn't even, a lot of them wouldn't even identify as Native American. They are their.
They are like their tribes.
It's like Cherokee.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. They're a collective of many different nations. So let's take one individual nation, right? They have spirits and they have belief systems and they have deities, but they're not a religion just because they have belief systems. They're a people with a connection to a land, with a history, with a culture, with a value system, with a language, with all that comes included. So what I'm saying is that Judaism is the collective of a people that came from Judea, and that we're able to pass that down throughout the diaspora that they came
Someone
in.
become a follower of Judaism if they are not ethnically Jewish.
So it's not about someone can become a Jew. So you know if someone can actually become Native American. If you go through a process within Native American culture in certain tribes, you could actually go through years of a process to adopt the identity and be recognized as a Native American.
I don't know how accepted that is in Jewish society.
Like for the way that Jews see converts, first of all, it's years of conversion. It's not like I accept Jesus, I'm a Christian. I accept Muhammad, I'm a Muslim. Right? I accept Buddha, I'm a Buddhist. For Judaism, it's years of adopting an identity, adopting a culture, a value system, adopting the mission statement, adopting the suffering that comes with it, and then becoming part of a people. And so that's the way that we have our own civilization, that people can become Jews. And the way in Judaism, the way that we see it is that a convert is a Jewish soul born in a non-Jewish body that found its way back to its people. My kids will be born in the region, which is why this is like not just absolutely, because I want my children to be able to live in a region that is not just better than the region that we have today, but that is able to live equally and freely with all types of people.
So what do you think is the solution?
So I don't have like.
Let me ask you, what do you think?
I don't think any people in power right now, whether the Israeli government, nor the PA, nor Hamas, has intention of changing the status quo. Okay? And if we do want to change the status quo, which is not talking about peace, but talking about justice, we have to actually have conversations of what needs to change on the ground, which is the injustices for both, and figuring out how to fulfill the aspirations for both. And I actually think that they don't contradict. When you're telling me about more local power, and telling me about access to resource and access to movement, that doesn't contradict with Jews wanting to have their Jewish state. That doesn't contradict with Jews wanting to be safe. Like the top 10 things that the Jews want, the top 10 things that Palestinians want, actually don't contradict. The only reason they contradict is because the way that they're sold as is that they want your destruction and they want your destruction, and you can't have both. So I don't have an answer for you as to like what we need to do to find a solution, but I have an answer to you that I think it's our responsibility as you're Palestinian, as you being Palestinian and me being Israeli, for us to take the responsibility within our own sides to have those conversations with our own people of finding a way to come together and to understand the other side and to humanize the other side.
Shalom everyone, my name is Rudy Rockman and I'm a Jewish and Israel rights activist. My work focuses on empowering the next generation of Jews and allies to be ideologically strong in order for us to write the next chapter of history. If you like my work and appreciate what I do, you can support us on patreon.com and link will be below.
I'm Rudy Rockman and you're watching JTV.